Chancellor Jeremy Hunt says the government's plan is working and the economy is on the right track.
As inflation gets closer to its target, that opens the door for the Bank of England to consider bringing down interest rates. That brings down mortgage rates. That makes a very big difference. What you can see is the difficult decisions the government has taken over the last year are paying off.
There are fears that thousands of jobs at a train factory in Derby could go because of a short-term gap in its order book. The French company Alstom is about to finish a 4-year programme of train building but has no other work until next year. Israel's military says it has killed around 90 gunmen and arrested 160 in a raid on Gaza's biggest hospital. Al-Shifa is one of the few partially operational hospitals remaining in northern Gaza. The government has banned 15 synthetic opioids, which it says are highly addictive and dangerous. Many of the substances involved, such as nitazines, are stronger than heroin and fentanyl. More than 100 deaths have been linked to nitazines in the past year. The data watchdog, the Information Commissioner's Office, says it's looking into claims that staff at the London clinic tried to access the private health records of the Princess of Wales. She had surgery there in January. The London clinic has been approached for comment. The Liberal Democrats are launching their campaign for May's local elections with a strong focus on health services and targeting Conservative seats in the south of England. The bakery chain Greggs says it's having problems accepting card payments because of an IT issue. A number of its shops are closed and others are only accepting cash. BBC News.
Today marks the spring equinox. The overhead sun has crossed the equator into the northern hemisphere. So are you looking forward to the lighter evenings of summer? In this afternoon's All in the Mind, we're taking a look at how the seasons affect our moods, thoughts and behaviours. That's at 3:30. But now it's time for Woman's Hour with Emma Bide.
Good morning and welcome to today's programme. We'll have details for you today of what's being described as a blockbuster immunotherapy drug which could help thousands more women with breast cancer than previously thought. Carolyn Hunter will be here. Her story with her daughter Freya of sky-high energy bills on account of the electricity needed to power Freya's life-supporting machines went viral after the actor Kate Winslet donated thousands to help the family. But how are they doing now? I'm going to catch up with Carolyn. And the journalist and author Rose Hackman will be here to argue why we need to stop indulging the idea of women's intuition. More to be revealed shortly, but it has something to do with emotional labour. All that to come and more. But first, a few weeks ago, you may remember I spoke to the founder of the baby loss charity, Mariposa Trust, Zoe Clark-Coates, about her tireless campaign for baby loss certificates to be issued by the government. After 9 long years, they were finally introduced in England last month for parents who've lost a baby before 24 weeks of pregnancy. It was a particularly emotional conversation, as you may expect, in which Zoe opened up about her own baby losses, and I'm very grateful to her for feeling like she could. But during our conversation, I realised that I too could apply for one of these certificates. I lost a baby at the start of 2022, an experience despite being very well aware of how common miscarriage is, you somehow never think will happen to you. I particularly and very naively really didn't think it would, as it had taken 5 rounds of IVF to finally fall pregnant again, 4 years after the birth of mine and my husband's son. But it did happen. I lost the baby, and with it I was forever changed. But apart from what went on inside of me and some of the conversations we had in the days and weeks afterwards, there was nothing else. Like millions of women before me, the baby lived within me and died within me. My body and mind, the keeper and witness. Not that you have to have something, but these baby loss certificates spoke to me. So after the programme last month, I went online. I didn't give it any more thought. I just knew instinctively I wanted to, becoming part of the first wave of women in England to apply for this document. I messaged my husband to explain what I was planning to do, asking, of course, if he was comfortable with it. I was going to put his name down, and I didn't want him to receive an email asking for his consent without prior warning, and he was. I should say you don't have to access your medical notes, nor is the process limited to one baby loss. But filling in the form, it actually only took a matter of minutes, but it was more emotional than I had anticipated. One of the questions you're asked is when you lost your baby. I realised I didn't actually know what month, and at that point even year. If you can relate to any of this, you'll know that that time is a fog, and there's a moment before the sonographer tells you the news, if that's the way you find out, as I did, and after. But I felt the act of applying for a baby loss certificate almost to be a political one, a refusal that something so major in our family's life was not to be erased, was something to be known about, recorded. And when the certificate arrived, a mere 10 days later, in its crisp envelope, I sort of wondered what this was when it dropped through the door, and printed on thick white paper, complete with an official government masthead, I've got it here in the studio, I felt weirdly satisfied, almost vindicated. It had happened. There was some physical proof that something external to me, which my husband and our children, here it was, when they're older, could read as part of the story of our lives, alongside perhaps our marriage certificates, birth certificates, and all the other paraphernalia that documents our existences in a family file of sorts. Our certificate, when I take it back home, will be filed in the folder alongside the birth certificates of our other children. Children I am so very fortunate to have. And I wanted to share my experience of applying and receiving these new baby loss certificates in a bid to raise awareness of the new scheme and explore some of the issues around it, which I'm going to be helped by your messages to do so today, and two guests. Many of you have already been in touch. If you feel you would like to, the number is 84844. Text will be charged your standard message rate. On social media, we're at BBC Woman's Hour. You can email me through the Woman's Hour website, or send a WhatsApp on 03 700 100 444. I should also say that support services are available on the Woman's Hour website. Your stories include, though, messages where it's not for you. It isn't something you want to do, and I'm very mindful of that. Others, though, who've applied straight away, and you also perhaps now have a certificate or are waiting for one. I received a message only this morning from a woman who said that she would be giving some feedback because hers arrived on Mother's Day. And we have received many messages from those of you who don't yet qualify. I just want to say this at this point. It's described at the moment as a deadline for recent losses since the 1st of September 2018. We have a message here from Pat who said, I lost my babies in the late 70s and my daughter, hers in the early 2010s. We also still grieve and have nothing to confirm their existence. Pat, I want to reassure you and many, many others that that was a temporary, and it is apparently a temporary date, just to avoid the system being overwhelmed. It will be removed and you will be able to apply. We'll bring you that update on the programme. I'm sure the government will, of course, update its services too. A message here from Val says, I had a miscarriage at 11 weeks in the early 70s. However, because pregnancy testing before 12 weeks was not available, it was not registered as a miscarriage. There was no support for me, medical or otherwise. It would be good to have some acknowledgement of this, as there must be millions like me. And another one here talking about this temporary cut-off date, also trying to reassure people of that. And Naomi has messaged to say, we had our losses in 2016 and 2017, and I have decided I will not be applying for certificates, mainly because I feel I've dealt with those emotions. We have 2 lovely children now, and I do not want to go back to that dark place. It was an awful time in our lives, and now we are in a different place. I'm joined by Dr. Michelle Tolfree. Good morning.
Good morning.
And you are here with your professional hat, I suppose, in some ways on as a psychotherapist,
A psychologist.
psychologist, but you are also here as a woman with experience.
Yes, yeah.
And a view that perhaps, well, in some cases, does differ to mine in terms of these certificates. Tell us a bit more.
So my experience is that I've had 2 losses. I've had an early loss, which was an ectopic pregnancy, and I also had a later loss. So my first daughter was stillborn at full term. So I had these really contradictory experiences of having a loss where I have nothing. I have no record, I have no mementos, no memories from that pregnancy. And then I have a certificate of stillbirth for my daughter, which was required by law. It was something I had to do. You, at that point, I don't know if it's different now, but had to go to a registry office where there's lots of other live babies to register the existence of the baby that was born but had died before she was born. And when it was announced that these certificates were going to be launched, I had these really conflicting feelings, because I felt like I should want to apply for a certificate, so I have this almost full record of my reproductive history, my reproductive story. But there was something within me that felt like that just wasn't going to be the right thing for me right now. And I think as a person, as a psychologist, as a mother, I've gone over and over and over about why is this? What is it about this that just doesn't feel right for me right now? And I think it's really embedded in the story about that particular loss. I didn't know I was pregnant until it was catastrophically ending. I found out I was pregnant and then wheeled down for surgery a few hours later to save my life. It was treated as a medical emergency because it was. And at no point, my care was amazing, but at no point was my care, it wasn't framed as I was losing a baby. It was, this is really dangerous, we need to take you for surgery. So I was kept in for a night, I was sent home, but at no point was I sort of told you might want to follow up to think about this or to explore this. So I felt like that set the wheels in motion for how I was supposed to feel about this loss. I didn't access any help. I didn't know that there was kind of support out there. I didn't know there was this huge, amazing baby loss community until I then lost my daughter a year later. And it was then that I thought, crikey, maybe I was allowed to feel sad about that loss. Maybe I could have felt sad about it. Maybe I could have grieved. And then by that point, I think I was so traumatised, so burnt out with my grief for the daughter who had just been stillborn, that I felt like I couldn't go back there. And I've been very lucky to go on to have another daughter, and sort of a number of years have passed, and I just worry that to go and apply for a certificate, I know how meaningful they are. I know how meaningful they are to so many people, and for me, I wonder whether then I would need to go and kind of really bond with this baby in my mind that I actually hadn't allowed to build in my mind. This was a baby that I didn't know when their due date would be. I hadn't thought of names because